in life, anything that's really easy to come by tends to be easy to lose. It's like people that are easily excited are also the same people that are easily deluded. What you can acquire fast, you can lose fast.
Like, I think 9 times out of 10, it would have been raise $6 million, employ 20 to 30 people, build a really good app, and then there's no customers. But here, it's a totally different narrative. We've got a team of 4 and there isn't an app. Everything's super manual, but like we've got these customers that are so obsessed. And you look at the Instagram and like, I haven't seen anyone else with customers that just truly love the platform like Kiki.
And so I utilized GPT, was the platform I chose, and I uploaded our Notion in different pages. And I said, let's role play a conversation with an investor. And so from that, I was able to plug a couple of holes that it couldn't point to anything in the Notion that we spoke to. So just trying to really, instead of just talk the talk about how we are founders and everyone should be using AI, I tried to actually sit there and be strategic about going beyond what I normally use an AI tool for.
It's more common in Silicon Valley to be building something purely for the tech to be acquired. And they actually even involve the party that they're looking to be acquired by. They're involved early on the board, on the cap table, and they're just building for that acquisition. I'd actually personally love to see more of that in Australia.
Do you know what age the average lawyer and accountant dies at?
No.
Well, if you go by their billable hours, around about 320. Morning, team.
Morning.
Morning, legends.
Morning, guys.
Legends.
That's a new opening.
Still, he's
But let me guess, you're amazing.
amazing.
Oh, he's
I'm awesome.
Come on, Ash.
Awesome. Not amazing.
Awesome.
He's often something starting with A.
Yeah, that was a little layup for him.
Oh, we're recording on a Friday. I got Friday vibes.
That's true. It is a Friday. We're a day late, but anyway, we will give the audience what they want.
Well, we think.
Yeah. Have we ever done that?
No, I don't. Whilst listenership numbers are one thing, the question is, are we like a Greek restaurant in a tourist town where it doesn't matter because no one's coming back because you just keep churning through the
Jeez.
the guests?
I was going to say, if you do enjoy it, please like and follow, but I guess Don doesn't care about that anymore.
No, that's true. If you do, I'm just in a bit of a mood this morning, so I had downpipes installed on Friday. It's a simple job, part of the renovation. And he says, I've connected one of the downpipes to that pipe that was teed off on the wall. I was like, yeah, I got no idea where that pipe goes, but maybe it goes somewhere. You want to know where it goes? Into my fucking office. I'll send you some pictures. I got up this morning at like 4 o'clock, came in, did some work, did normal routine, went in to help the kids, and then it started to piss down. I thought, oh, it's a little bit wet. And then like an hour and a half later, I come in and I'll just show you, it all came through because this used to be a laundry. That pipe must come through into this plumbing. So it's all pissed through like a water spout. It's all up the wall. So that was the start to my day, and I'm trying to be mature and emotionally in control, but
I love how the plumber just goes, oh yeah, I just connected it to this random pipe that I don't know where it goes. Oh, you have one job.
You had one job. But there's a lot of things about B2B sales that I've learned in that whole exercise. I'm
looking forward to the thread.
There's the unexpected nature. There's the lack of due diligence, lack of planning. That's after yesterday having to learn how to inject cattle because the one that got into the creek seems to have gotten an infection. And so now I'm spending money on vet bills and trying to work out how to get a needle into the hide of a cow at the right depth without bending and breaking the needle. And I'm learning many things.
Urban farmer.
Another day for Don McKenzie.
Honestly, your life baffles me.
But I am functional. I am good at what I do.
What
just
do you
just
do?
don't ask Libby.
No. Wife need not reply. Well, should we jump in?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yep, let's do it.
The first thing is to do a call out that we're going to be part of the 5V SaaS Summit in Sydney. I'll put the link. We're going to be facilitating a panel on AI, and I've been working with Chris from 5V on getting founders, not just that are building AI tools, but it's more geared towards you want to implement AI into all different parts of your business. How do you go about it? What are the challenges? What are the opportunities? And we're getting a panel of founders together that have actually done it. Remember, we did an episode on T Industries where Alexa, the founder, was in the AFR and had automated the whole thing. I spoke to her on Friday. She's going to be on the panel. Plus, we've got Jackie Coe, one of the founders of Relevance AI. Had a chat to him. He's going to be on the panel. Now, it's only for founders, and Chris is doing a great job keeping the riffraff out. So if you...
Riffraff?
Yeah, that probably is a bit offensive. But if you identify as riffraff, you need not apply. But if you are a founder that's being held at Macquarie Bank, it's a limit, I think, of 250 people, and they were oversubscribed last year. So I should say when it is, 20th of March, Macquarie Group Sydney. I'll put the link in the show notes, and all of the details are going to be confirmed.
That's awesome. It's going to be tight turnaround going from that straight to the US.
Yeah, I just got the calendar up. I'm like, are you even here?
Yeah, so the idea is down into Sydney, back to Brisbane, fly out. I think I will just tell the family that it's all the US trip rather than the negligence of the day
Why
before
don't you
flying
just fly
out.
out of Sydney?
So let's get to the...
There is a direct flight, Sydney to San Francisco.
Yep, there sure is. I've done it many a times.
Well, speaking of Sydney...
I'm moving on.
No, I think that we don't fly out to the 22nd, do we, Aaron? No, we're flying out the
22nd, because we're going back a day going over. So
okay, so yeah,
we're literally landing something like 1 a.m. and then kicking off the mission about 12 hours later. So
get that look off your face, Jack.
I can't help it. I love that you had to justify at the end. It's so good.
You shut your mouth when you're talking to me. Well, let's recap on a couple of companies that we've spoken about in past episodes. So KKR, which is a multinational gorilla, has acquired a stake in Employment Hero, which we did an episode with Ben Thompson, and they've acquired that from Seek. Now, what's interesting about that is that as Employment Hero has evolved, some of their direction and their vision puts them in direct competition with Seek. And there's been a bit of conversation around how they're going to manage that conflict. And Seek seems to have taken the pragmatic view of selling down, not all, because Seek's growth fund still retains some growth funding in there. But look, having a partner and a shareholder like KKR on the cap table, while you're still in that growth phase, that's a pretty big part of a unicorn's evolution.
Awesome news.
Yeah, really positive news for them. I am keen to know the internal dialogue around it, but great outcome to have them on KKR on the cap table.
But yeah, like how do you actually manage that? So if the portco is openly saying that you're a competitor, and then your obligation as a founder is to pass on quarterly updates to the competitor, like what is there a Chinese wall there?
You would hope so, given it's the growth fund. But it raises a great question, Jack, is how is that managed?
Well, it depends on what the agreement was at the time of investment. What does the shareholders agreement say? And if it wasn't ever contemplated early on, I bet you it was probably silent, and therefore the obligations contractually would have probably stood up. But when Apple had to buy the brand of Apple Music off the Beatles, didn't they? When Apple started, so the rights to the Beatles recordings are owned by the band's company, Apple Corp Limited. And for Apple to get into, the dispute was finally resolved in 2007 with Apple Corp's transferring ownership of the word Apple name and all associated trademarks to Apple. Anyway, a very weird diversion. All I'm saying is companies get into things in the beginning and then end up moving into other areas, and then they have to try and work it out then. But I'd say that it probably wasn't originally contemplated. Otherwise, Seek would never have invested in the first place, maybe, or maybe they saw it as a hedge to their business. I don't know.
But surely, I assume that I guess it does come down to structurally how the growth fund is set up.
It's good, I think, that they've found a way. Seek has got a great return, and now Employment Hero have got a strong investor on their balance sheet.
It's an interesting one for founders, though, when they do take on a strategic investor. Like to your point, Don, how these things can evolve with time, and who you might consider a strategic investor right now, fast forward 3-5 years, that relationship could look very different if you've pivoted into a different area or explored a new market opportunity.
The majority of time I've seen companies raise from a strategic corporate, it never delivers, and it mostly causes harm.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, particularly if you think back to the conversation we had with Ben, where you think how he brought on Seek as a potential partner in the future, if I'm remembering the episode correctly, as he saw that there was a lot of overlap in strategic intent and that they'd be a good partner. So my brain automatically goes to, is this a call out for founders where you may be bringing on someone who you think you want to partner with in the future, that you should actually be thinking about, well, what if we potentially want to go further than a partnership and actually go into that market? At the time of bringing them on, are there any things that founders should be thinking about that we've seen previously, just red flags or just warning signs of putting some language in documents that you may never use, but if you don't have it in there, you're going to kick yourself in the future?
I like the convo we had in the US, Don, with one of the VC firms there, where they said one strategic on the cap table was seen as a red flag, but more than two was seen as you've successfully bridged the downside and you demonstrate your ability to wrangle strategics on the cap table.
Yeah, that's true. Because, one strategic, the fear of the pattern often is that you're then going to alienate everyone else in that market. When you've got 2, 3, 4, you've demonstrated such value that they're going to get over themselves and still play with you. So that was a good point. Another company that we've spoken about a number of times, Jack's favorite company, is Kiki, which is the rental subletting platform that started off in New Zealand, then went to Sydney, then went to New York. And there was an article in Smart Company by Tegan Jones. It says, Kiki's investor reports reveal millions burned amid legal risks. Despite ambitious initial projections, Kiki has spent millions while relying on manual processes, inconsistent investor reports, and a legally risky business model. It's a big article, and I'll just summarize some of the items. So one of them is Kiki's $76,000 in revenue and guaranteeing rent. So since launching, where keep in mind they raised $6 million US in a funding round led by Blackbird. Since launching, the article says that Kiki has filled 459 homes and generated $76,000 in total revenue. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, they had about 3-point-something million in the bank. So they've burnt $2.5 million. They've also started doing a rent guarantee initiative that if you put it on the platform and we can't find you someone, we will guarantee it. And that has cost them $13,000 in a month. And the Kiki co-founder, Toby Thomas Smith, joked that they were going to go bankrupt while promoting the initiative. There's also reports in here that 2 of the co-founders have left, and also the first female employee that they had, which led them to do that marketing stunt of the girls club, or the girly club, girls in New York, or whatever it was. And then the big piece is around Kiki's inconsistent reporting metrics and financial figures. Apparently, they've been able to get their hands on different reports, and it says inconsistent financial figures, particularly regarding revenue, burn rate, and the company's use of rent saved as a performance metrics. These reports, cited by Smart Company, often vary in structure, some summarizing a single month, while others lump 2 or 3 months together with inconsistent metrics. For example, a 3-month reporting period. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. I'll put the link in there. And then the other item is that there's a fledgling tech stack They're doing a lot of it manually. There isn't an app. It's all done via DMs. And then Blackbird were asked for comment, and Blackbird's comment was effectively they're going to continue to monitor performance and provide support. Before I give my 10 cents, any thoughts on the broad vibes?
Yeah, the two standout pieces for me, kind of the vibes of disintegration on the team side, but on the reporting side, like the inconsistencies in metrics being reported, this is one of the things we focus on, is trying to have that one pager approach. Jack, do you want to speak to how we do that with Portcos? Like why we...
And just, can we also acknowledge at least they're sending fucking reports?
True.
Yeah. No, and yeah. I think, yeah, in general, you should always try and keep consistent reports. So you've got data points you can actually go back and look at. But like, to call this out in an article, like, it's so, like, this is early stage businesses. They've got that many things to worry about. If you miss a metric or two, it's really not a big issue. Like, to me, this is like the website whoopsie. It's like, why is this even being reported on?
Well, and for context, it's when you raise certain levels of money, certain investors demand different reporting. And some of the reporting from our portfolio that I've seen other investors ask for, I look at it and go, that's insane. That makes no sense. I'm confused as hell, but it's what they want and that's what they have to do. So it is so common that a company is producing varying reports. Is it ideal? No. Would it be nice if every investor had the same template? Absolutely. But yeah, I agree, Jack.
Ash, you got anything on this one?
No, not really.
I do think it's difficult. There are some case studies where some great companies were slow to get off the mark. I guess with what I'm looking at here, though, with the amount of capital, the traction and whatever else, whilst the market intellectually looks like a big TAM, is this actually...
I just never had any problems finding a place to sublet or rent in New York. Like, yes, the market moves quickly, but there's so many Facebook groups that there's something going up every hour. I lived in 9 apartments in like 4 years at one point. It was never an issue that I came across. And because your friend network is so diverse, you can always find a place for a friend. On the like Aussie and New York one, there's a new place going on every hour almost that you can rent while an Aussie's traveling or they're coming home. That's why when it launched in New York, I was like, okay, not really something I ever felt a pain point in.
But yeah, Don, on your point, like, I feel like they had the capital, they could have built the app straight away, but that wouldn't have been the right way to do it. And you've got to do the things that don't scale first. So you try and get the customer love. So like, I actually tend to agree with the approach they're going about it without agreeing or not knowing enough if there is a market. Like,
yeah, I agree. I think having a crack at their tech stack is, they don't yet have a business and blowing a whole lot of money on an app that nobody wants to use.
Yeah. And I think like the narrative, like, I think 9 times out of 10, it would have been raise $6 million, employ 20 to 30 people, build a really good app, and then there's no customers. But here, it's a totally different narrative. We've got a team of 4 and there isn't an app. Everything's super manual, but like, we've got these customers that are so obsessed. And you look at the Instagram and like, I haven't seen anyone else with customers that just truly love the platform like Kiki. And like, we don't know whether or not this will be a venture size return yet. At a sub scale of like 50 to 100 people, like, there is so much love and it's this community.
I think it's absolutely the right sequence. And later in this episode, we're going to be talking about how companies are getting smaller. But some of the reporting, the article also talks about technically what they're doing is not legal or has some concerns in New York. Well, tell that to Uber, Airbnb.
Yeah, and like, in their defense, it's probably true. Like, it probably is. It's in a gray area. But I just feel like Toby and Blackbird, like Sam from Blackbird, they're just being like really hard done by with the reporting constantly. Like, they're already fighting so much to try and turn something into a reality. And then you've just got constant backlash in the media.
My gut feel is, from what I've heard and seen and whatever else, I don't think they give 2 fucks. And that's the right way to be. You just got to use your own compass to do what's to do what's right. I do think that clearly there is some disintegration, or at least clearly there are some things that haven't turned out to be true, because the article did say when they raised that the company forecast they would be generating $2.5 million in monthly revenue, filling 31,000 homes. Colour me pink, a early stage seed company got their forecast wrong. Can you believe it?
I'm just glad it's not only us.
Yeah. No, when I read that, I'm sitting going, oh, fuck, Blackbird has the same problems. Oh, I feel so good. On the people side, that to me is always the canary in the coal mine, not so much revenue and all those other things. When co-founders start leaving and whatever else, it's understanding that a bit more. But at a certain point, if you're not getting the traction, the team can't be that big. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, I agree, Don. I think like the biggest issue, if you're trying to report on something, it's the co-founders leaving. Like that's the biggest issue here, but it's not even addressed. And it's all these other points that are just like, they're not even important right now.
Yeah. Well, let's jump into some more general BAU stuff. This isn't, well, it could be in the charts, but I'm going to actually make a section out of it, but I'll just share the screen for the listeners at home. This chart that I've just put up is the software development job postings in the US, and it's wild. It's an index, and it goes from before COVID, it was at 100. It then drops down to 60. Then we had the COVID boom where it goes from 60 to nearly 240. And then we've gone from 240 back down to almost 60. Now, one way you could look at it and say, well, that's just the COVID mania. But there was a post by Greg Eisenberg. He said, this chart is nuts. Software developer jobs are down 70% from their peak. People will blame the end of free money, but something way more interesting is happening. The middle-class engineer is dying, and it's dying because they're not needed anymore. One good dev with GitHub, Copilot, Cursor, Bolt, etc. ships what entire teams did 5 years ago. Microsoft just reported the highest revenue per employee in history. The entry-level engineer does not exist anymore. And with some of the stuff we're going to talk to here, I think that's dead right. And with parents that had kids a few years ago, it's like you got to learn to code. Even I this morning was screwing around with Relevance AI, and they've got like a natural language prompt. What AI would you like to create? And in the childcares, we get these constant inquiries that are actually quite standard often. So I said, I want a receptionist AI that can answer all calls, work out if the question is in the knowledge base, or put it through to the center director. And then it was just amazing. It came through all of these things. Then my skills ran out, and I was like, all right, I'll have a chat to Duncan. But we're not far off. I think they're right.
Yeah, we've talked about this before, and it's not just the job counts, but also hearing from friends in San Francisco how the contracts and perks for developers have completely changed. So going back 7 years ago, all the emphasis on employers having to have table tennis tables and all sorts of daycare facilities and incentives to attract the best talent, a lot of those perks have been cut back. And so contract terms are becoming much more standardized, as you would expect for other employees. So engineers are on equal terms. So numbers are down, the perks are changing, but also salaries are changing. Like the other data point is top-end talent absolutely commanding a premium, but this bifurcation where the rest of the market is being left behind.
But I don't think it's just engineers. Like I think it's the middle class of all industries. And like I think lawyers are a good example. Like you look what a grad does, it's a lot of document, like all of that nitty gritty stuff, which AI could do for way cheaper instead of being a $90,000 salary. And
even
then
paralegals, Jack. Like there's a lot of stuff in that legal sector. I was talking to a person in my network who owns a law firm, and there's one smart paralegal who's put their hand up to be the champion of how they can leverage AI in a firm, because they've been smart enough to go, oh, well, if I don't champion this and make myself valuable, I'm going to go like everyone else, because they're going to be able to utilize AI to do a lot of that research. And you're going to need someone with that knowledge to check the research and validate it. But yeah, I think it's the same with consultancies. Like I think the big four, their model is going to have a huge shakeout.
yeah, like the way I see it going is partners are just going to be able to get more time, more done with less. So we're just going to see these firms shrink, but the outputs stay the same. So the revenue per employee in a service or consulting model is just going to go up.
Yeah.
Like you never want to be in the middle of any market. I think AI is just pushing it where we've got an evolutionary moment, and the outliers, like the mutants at the end of the spectrum, are going to be the ones that survive and thrive.
I think law firms are going to have a massive reduction in revenue, because if you think about how they make money, it's on billable hours for research, the predominant time. So I actually think, yes, they'll still get the same amount done and it'll be with less people, but their billable hours are going to evaporate.
But
Yeah,
Ash,
that's assuming they can't bring on more clients.
yeah. Do you know what age the average lawyer and accountant dies at?
No.
Well, if you go by their billable hours, around about 320. You find me one of those buggers that actually puts down the right amount of hours. To all the accountants and lawyers listening, you know it's true. I had something in the schedule that I actually deleted at the last minute, but I think it's Deloitte or one of that globally now has 60,000 people that on their consulting description is like an AI implementer. They've got a $1.2 billion of consulting pipeline and working with corporates to tell them how to implement AI. So for a little while, the consultants as well are going to be able to milk their customers. But there was another post related to this, that small teams are the future. Cursor got to 100 million in 21 months with 20 people. Midjourney, 200 million, 2 years with 10 people. Lovable, 10 million, 2 months. Bolt, 20 million, 2 months with 15 people. Like, this is the world that we're entering. And another post by Ludwig Enschailer says that he, in his portfolio, he's a partner with BEI 468 Capital. We now have 4 startups in our portfolio that have crossed 1 mil ARR with a headcount of 5 or less, all founded in 2024. This seems to be the new normal. And one of the challenges, especially at that Series A phase, when a company really starts to grow and scale, the founders tend to try and throw humans at it. It's one of the issues we're dealing at the moment with companies that we came into a little bit later. They just get these bloated teams because, this is a problem. I need a person to solve that problem. The problem is the bigger the ship gets, the harder it is to turn. And the more people you've got to have in a meeting and the more people you've got to align and get agreement and get implementation, and the whole place just slows down. And we've got this world now where actually we're not going to use people to try and solve things. We're going to use tools to try and solve things. And I'm excited by that because the more, what's that Bob Marley song? More people, more problems.
Is that the start of another thread? Lessons in B2B sales from Bob Marley. No, but totally true. We talk about, I feel like we preach this all the time, resourcefulness over resources. But this trend, I do think it's here to stay.
Yeah, I had a chat with someone the other day who asked me to come and help the team with some stuff. And I was like, you just got too many people on the team. Oh, but we've got all of these problems. So it's like, yeah, you've got all these problems because you've got all these people on the team. You know how you're listening to a podcast and then it stops for an ad and it's really annoying? Well, that's what this is.
Oh, God. What are we doing ads for?
So from an investment perspective, what does Tribe invest in?
We invest in B2B tech companies post-revenue with scaling sales and the early inklings of their scalable sales engine that are looking to expand into the UK or US markets.
One of the main reasons I think Tribe is different is that we focus on a low volume of deals. We roll up our sleeves and add real value to our portfolio.
For sophisticated investors that are interested in investing to early stage technology companies that are scaling into global markets, we have both a fund that invests across a portfolio of ventures and also a syndication model where investors can choose the investments that they prefer on a deal by deal basis.
And enough of that, back to the podcast.
There was a post by Lucas Bedout. He points out something that I do think is true. In life, anything that's really easy to come by tends to be easy to lose. And it's just like people that are easily excited are also the same people that are easily deluded. It's both sides of the spectrum. And he says a lot of founders and VCs are talking about how the rapid growth of companies like Cursor are changing expectations. What most of them forget is the basic rule in business. What you can acquire fast, you can lose fast. His whole team is paying for Cursor right now, but if something better comes out next week, everyone will switch immediately. It's the same for LLMs like OpenAI or audio APIs like 11 Labs. Look at DeepSeek AI, for instance, copying OpenAI's API contracts so developers could switch while still using OpenAI's SDKs. I think that's right. And I think that makes Hamilton Helmer's 7 powers even more important. If you aren't in that rapid rise of revenue developing one of those 7 powers, you're actually just building a flash in the pan company.
Yeah, and even in the 7 powers, like switching costs, you think of data repositories as something that founders sometimes anchor to as the high switching costs as well. All the data's on platform. But you look at the uptake of Cursor, people moving their code base and switching, it's so easy to do that actually they could easily switch out as well. So I think it's a great point. Like, these grow fast, but what's going to make them sticky?
Well, even Phil from Gaspot, one of our portfolio companies, after they looked at Cursor, Phil sent me a new one this morning called Windsurf, and it does all these different things. And I sent it to Duncan and Spidey to have a look at, like, the pace at which, and I put in the show notes. So Duncan's been meaning to get around to using Cursor. And after he had a chat with one of the portfolio companies, he did so. And I got a message from him. My goodness me, I've never experienced such a seamless transition from any piece of software. In about 30 minutes, I've transitioned out of VS Code plus GitHub Copilot and 70 other VS Code extensions straight into Cursor. I've retained all the learnings and IDE environment tweaks that he had prompted. This is because Cursor is a clone/fork of the open source VS Code base. It's like someone like me had fought all the battles I've been going through for years, then decided, no, this isn't good enough, and redeveloped VS Code and GitHub as Cursor. As we know, developers and data scientists don't tend to get so excited too often. So, and that's obviously really exciting. But for Cursor, are they going to be able to keep everyone sticky? Now, I think the key point there is that its Cursor is a clone/fork of the open source VS Code base that they were previously on. So it's made that transition seamless. And if we think of switching costs and stickiness, if someone was to create a product, even if it was much better, but didn't have that seamless transition, then that user experience wasn't even going to come close.
As we're talking about this, I'm thinking about Xero. Like, what would it take? What would someone have to establish for us to switch from Xero to something else? Like that incredible simplicity of transfer because all the data's there. But
I would switch tomorrow.
yeah, exactly. Like that. If there was the right solution.
No, there is. There are plenty of solutions that are way cheaper. But my friction point is my accountant only knows Xero.
Yeah. See, for me, I'd be looking for something that's heavily integrated. So receipts, expenses, emails, website, Ontraport.
And my accountant is heavily obsessed with asset protection. And so every fucking entity needs a Xero account. And then you look at how much I'm actually spending on Xero. It's like, I may as well just build this from scratch.
Yeah. Xero is so expensive, particularly if you have multi-currency. I'm like, this is a joke. Like, I'm so ready to switch. So if any listener has something better that I will just go in and train my accountant on, please let us know.
Yeah.
But one of Hamilton Helmer's powers is obviously switching costs, making it really sticky, but brand. And what I think has demonstrated here is that at Cursor's rapid ascent and all of the noise that it's creating has got not only incredible value from a product point of view, I think it's developing a power brand because it's just being known.
But yeah, Don, I think that's why like focusing on specific segments of the market is important. Because if you're at a team the size of us, it's really easy to jump from, let's say, a Xero to another one. But if we're from a team of like 50 to 80, jumping to save $10,000 per year actually may not be worth it if the efficiency gain from using this is north of 4 or 5x of what we're paying for.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah, well, that's why getting that market niche correct is so important.
But we're just in a funny time. Like, we just don't know how the market's going to react. And it's hard to say if Cursor got presented to us, like the crazy growth, you'd have to jump on the rocket ship, even though we don't know if the market dynamics will allow some type of competitive advantage to hold over the long term.
Yeah, it's from a portfolio point of view. It's one of those deals you as long as it was in your thesis, you'd need to do.
Yeah. But it's also why we like enterprise, because to your point, Jack, those bigger companies take their switching cost is higher. And so there's a time delay for these type of changes where you can see the ripple coming through the market before it hits those top end clients. But with something like Cursor, you would hope that there's some secondaries or other liquidity events, like for investors on that growth journey before an ultimate acquisition or something else.
And then you're right, Jack, in terms of we don't know, but it's like the pace. It's not only the pace of technology, but this struggle of who owns the customer. And so one of the things I've put in the schedule is that there was a post by Salman Pound, and I've seen a number of posts talking about this, but Google has added essentially a AI note taker. He says, simply tap the Gemini diamond icon thing and get your transcript in a document. No more admitting 3 different AI note takers and sending transcripts of your chats to God knows where. Like, there's been this big boom of AI note takers, but it absolutely makes sense that Google Meet, Teams, and Zoom just build that functionality in, because that's where the customer value and journey and almost verticalization of the online meeting lives.
Totally agree.
I'm still loyal to Granola for now. So
it is great, Ash. I'm using it a lot. But yeah, that risk, right? It just becomes a feature of someone else's product that already owns the customer. And on the back of a lot of this reporting around Google's improvement in AI tools this week, I went and looked, like, for our account at Tribe, what does it cost to upgrade to get the full access to all the AI suite? And it adds about, I think it's about $80 a month across all of us in total. So I don't know, I'm happy with the disparate tools at the moment, but I can see where we just end up flicking that on.
Yeah, but unless Granola's got some amazing tech that these other gorillas can't find their way through, like, Granola, by the sounds of it, has made a really great user experience.
Yeah.
But is there we will soon find out if they've got something that can't be embedded by others.
Yeah, completely agree. And I think, look, we all know Google has the ability to do anything it really wants. It has the firepower, but it's the speed at which can it adapt at the same rate as these other ones? And I think that'll be the question. You're only now just seeing Gemini catch up to your GPT and your Claude, right? So it's taken them a lot longer to get to the dance. And now it's like, okay, can they continue to perform and continue to adapt at the same pace? That's what I'm interested in. And also, I would love to get access to the deep research, Sharon. So I'm going to turn that on for me.
Well, we can definitely look at it, Ash.
But 2 things. I'm trying to cut down carbs, so I couldn't have granola anyway. And secondly, it's the second mouse that gets the cheese. Like, there's something that comes in that changes users' behavior, like the BlackBerry, and in comes the more well thought out, more integrated, more vertical. In comes the Apple, and that's a pattern that's constantly replicated.
To be fair, the founders of Granola have previously had a startup and been bought by Google, and I wouldn't be surprised if that happens again.
And that's a good point. It could very much be purely a play to be acquired to become that feature that others use.
Well, that's what Jack, Ash and I were talking about this morning, Aaron, when you didn't turn up to the team meeting.
By the way, someone please disrupt GP bookings and GP bloody use of time. But anyway, that's a whole other story.
Yeah. For some investments and things you look at, it's such a rocket ship space with such the potential for flame out that actually you've got to say, well, can I be boarded this ship for a few years and get off in the best interest of my LPs to get a risk-adjusted venture return? And that's creeping in more and more of a strategy as the life cycle of businesses get closer to a fruit fly than a star.
I think that's such a good point. It's not talked about enough in Australia. When I think of like Chris Milligan building with the acquisition in mind, and it's more common in Silicon Valley to be building something purely for the tech to be acquired, and they actually even involve the party that they're looking to be acquired by. They're involved early on the board, on the cap table, and they're just building for that acquisition. I'd actually personally love to see more of that in Australia.
I'm interested in if this will not only open up that build tech for acquisition, but business model. So how, like I think we're talking about with the lawyers and the consultants, I think that ecosystem is going to have a massive shakeout in terms of how those businesses are constructed in order to make profits and have margin. So I can envision a future where we also have these startups who are building these business models that are leveraging AI to enable a different construct in those ecosystems. That's where like my brain goes, like where are we going to look in that space as well?
Yeah, I think the challenge here is just the tyranny of distance from the actual individuals who are involved in the acquisition process. Like I think one of the virtues of Silicon Valley is having the M&A teams directly there. You've got first connection relationships. So I think we need to build more of those, hence what we do. But yeah, that is one area where we probably need to, as a country, invest more, and for founders to actually have those relationships early.
Yeah, I think it would be fair to say that most people are agreeing that horizontal is far easier to disrupt than vertical. The idea of vertical is making it sticky, and a vertical type company called Splose AI, which is an AI startup for physios and chiropractors, has raised $5 million from EVP to take on the UK market. And the Splose team almost came on one of our missions, but at the last minute had a few things pop up, so they couldn't attend. But great to see a company from Adelaide raising in that manner.
Yeah, Nick and Peter were due to be on the London mission, and unfortunately had to pull out last minute because I couldn't make it, but it would have been great to have them along. But good to see this happening, and Jack, you were reading into it like it looks like they've pivoted from when we looked at them.
Yes, I think, and I could be wrong here, I think it was an NDIS focus when we took a look, but have now pivoted to physio and chiropractic management. But yeah, it's just great to see, like it's so good to see Adelaide get like an Adelaide startup getting funded by EVP. I think that's such a good indicator for our little ecosystem down here. So big raps to the team and EVP.
Yeah, they talk about AI. There was a lot of people, including me, who were quite negative about wrappers in the early stage. But actually, so if you can see my screen here, the AI that they seem to have is an integration that will record your meeting, transcribe it, turn it into a summary, and add a note. Now, that's just ChatGPT. Like you could do that tomorrow. Like there's nothing really scientific here. But if you can create some kind of solution that a ideal client just lives in, and what they also provide is the practice management aspect. They provide the invoicing. They provide the calendar. They've got a reporting system and an API. So they're integrated with Xero, which allows them to be on the Xero partner marketplace, which is I assume a good channel for customers. They don't seem to have the customer booking an appointment and charging of dollars. I could be wrong there, but I assume they will have to bring that in because a health professional's life starts with a customer booking, and a lot of people are using HotDoc now or something similar rather than calling up. But maybe that's where the API integration comes from. But where you can create a vertical solution end to end and then use off-the-shelf kinds of things like a very simple LLM transcription and summary. If you think of stickiness, like if that company or a series of companies wants to move somewhere else and you've got to change all your integrations and change all your data, it just becomes hard.
Totally.
Well, I just found, so this is just random, but
I feel like this is meant to be in charts.
well, it wasn't quite charts, but material. I didn't think, but
Because
I
it's
think
more factual than charts.
Oh, I haven't even validated. It's a good story, but the Ryanair CEO, Mike O'Leary, who's quite a character, owns a one-car taxi company, not for profit, but to legally drive in bus lanes so he can bypass traffic. A simple yet brilliant loophole. And I put this in
I
the main
love it.
section, Ash, because it's that kind of mindset and thinking and whatever else that differentiates, I think, entrepreneurs that find their way through the war zone that is entrepreneurship and that creativity compared to others that follow the rules.
Love it.
So true.
No, I'm just,
I love that.
he needs a Waymo taxi is the next evolution.
Yeah, so a shorter schedule than normal. Theme of the week.
Jack, you've got your theme of the week ready, I'm sure.
Yeah, my week's mostly been finalising the fund docs and then investor updates. But I've had a few calls with portcos, and one of them was with Don. And the theme there was like really just getting alignment on the sales team. So that's like more so alignment on the strategy. So I suppose the takeaway for founders listening, and I really like this approach, is like a top-down strategy is the way to do it, but then you stress test it on the way down. So if we don't have alignment, it's really hard to actually go and execute to validate whether or not the strategy is working. So I suppose the theme here is just alignment amongst the whole team.
Yeah,
but it's really important to go from top down.
And the issue was that between the founder and what the sales team were doing, the sales team was trying to be more systemic with a very focused approach. Founder was falling into the trap of let's try everything and everyone. That lack of alignment leads to a loss of energy, a loss of efficiency. And you did really well there, Jack. You really took the bull by the horns and just provided that support. I think founders and their sales teams overcomplicate things. Like the advent of CRMs and marketing automation, I think has totally screwed up the ability of early stage businesses to actually just get out there and perform. Because you know what? A spreadsheet that's got day or week across the top, target, actual, with a few notes, and you get together and you just track, okay, I had 50 calls that led to this and this. That is so efficient. Okay, fine. When you get to 50 salespeople and you need process and sales managers and team managers, fine. But I see this all the time where tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars is spent thinking that tools and systems are going to drive sales, and it's bullshit.
Spreadsheets. So simple. Bloody works.
You got to start with what doesn't scale. And like when you go into a company and it's like, okay, pull up your funnel. Wow, we're still working on HubSpot to do this and this information's missing. It's like, okay, fine. Let's start. Get out a spreadsheet. You've got how many people in sales? 3. Okay, what are their names? Excellent. What's their main action that you need them doing? Right, get them down there. What's their target for the week? How many? Excellent. Okay. So who's going to be having the one-on-one with them, or do it as a team where you're going to follow up with them and say, how many did you get to? What was the feedback? What's in the way? How can I help? Like, who's going to drive that accountability piece? You don't have to make it complex to begin with until you get big enough where that doesn't scale. But too often companies jump it.
Well, I'm talking about workflow, like ditch the Kanban boards and Asana and everything else. Ash, this shared notes is bloody godsend for productivity across the team. It's so good. If we had Don on an iPhone device, it'd be even better.
Yeah, well.
John, I didn't even know you don't have an iPhone. I thought you were.
What?
Do you have an
I thought you
iPhone?
Yeah.
Oh, you can
Well,
be on.
what's it-
Right, Dennis.
Who said I didn't?
Well, we
Well-
assumed you didn't because you're not on the
Matt,
shared task list.
I think I might
No,
have
no,
got
no, 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 no.
Freudian
no.
slip.
I'm not on the
just-
shared task list because it's
'Cause you
do
don't
as I
do-
say,
yeah.
not as I do.
Exactly.
But I wasn't even aware there was a shared task list.
No, we've talked about it multiple times, and I think as soon as you hear task list, you just stop. Just stop listening. It's just, yeah. So my theme of the week
Go Ash. Upwards management. Yes.
has been taking this rowdy bunch. No, but really it has been just like fine tuning the Notion and leveraging AI to find holes in what we've put together. I think although I'm the newest on the team, there is now also a level of just like inherent knowledge of what we do, why we do it the way we do it. And I wanted to make sure that there weren't just massive holes in what we'd put together. And so I utilized GPT, was the platform I chose, and I uploaded our Notion in different pages. And I said, let's role play a conversation with an investor. And so from that, I was able to plug a couple of holes that I inherently knew, but it said that it couldn't point to anything in the Notion that we spoke to. So just trying to really, instead of just talk the talk about how we are founders and everyone should be using AI, I tried to actually sit there and be strategic about going beyond what I normally use an AI tool for, which, yes, is role play, but generally role play in terms of like, I've got to have a tough conversation or I need to negotiate something better, and actually go, okay, well, I'm about to launch this fund and probably have 1,000 conversations. Where do I need to brush up on my knowledge that may not be in a document? If it finds something that's not in the document, but I don't want it to be because I want it to be a talking point, let's jot that down and let's actually have some content as a team so that we're all singing from the same song.
Love
And
it.
you've done very well. I'm just
Yeah.
searching my email. I've not been invited to do
Well,
this.
I can fix that. Don't you worry.
I've got a new email. I'll just give you.
No.
Yeah. No, it's bloody good work, Ash.
I've just realised at the beginning of this episode I didn't remember that thing I told you about. This is an AI necklace. Remember that thing?
Yes. Yes.
So
it's coming back to me now.
It's arrived. So in here is essentially a recorder, and it just lives on 24/7. You have it around your neck like a knob, and it then integrates with an app that does the transcription, actions, tasks. You can integrate it with other different bits and pieces. I haven't shown Libby yet because she is going to hit the roof, but yeah, I'm ahead of the curve.
No.
You'd be
So
ahead of the curve if you're actually wearing it and using it.
Wait, but am I hearing this correctly in that all this is a recorder?
But it seamlessly integrates into an AI that summarizes and sends through to you each conversation.
I'm sure you could do that with your iPhone to get it sent.
manually remember to keep pressing it.
Mhm.
Manually having to remember.
I like it, Don. I can.
Thank you, Aaron.
Depending how you go with it, I could see myself using this.
Absolutely not. You will look like a total knob.
I already do. So there's nowhere, like, there's no downside to this.
It's like, at least it could integrate a panic button or something cool.
Well, when he first held it up, I thought that is the shittest half Ironman medal I've ever seen.
There is a button on the side.
Which does.
Oh, I haven't got that far. So anyway, that's not my theme of the week. My theme of the week, without getting too woo-woo, there's a few conversations I've had with some of the founders, and then just in my own experience, like, energy is like a real thing, as we know, and sometimes you have really good energy, sometimes you don't. But the subconscious or the conscious, it knows when things aren't right somewhere, and it then tries to tap you on the shoulder and it drains you, is my life's experience. And we're talking some others that are having like some performance issue or just mindset issue or whatever else. When you actually unpack it, it's some other tangential thing, personal life, whatever. And for whatever reason, there are these built-in mechanisms that take over a little bit, and you got to listen. You got to go, fuck, okay, I've got to go deal with that thing that I don't want to deal with. Because if you don't, it builds out in the physical world. It tends to go bang, but then in your brain it builds up. And just with some of the conversations that when you peel back some of the challenges of the founders, when you get to the core of it, there's something somewhere, and it's the same trap that I've fallen into. So my theme has been a recognition of that and trying to connect with it. That's my theme.
Love it. I actually listened.
Sorry.
Go ahead. You go.
I was going to say, at the moment, I just don't have the energy, Ash, for the task list. So
Well, you're now invited. So
once I get that energy back.
Okay. What I was going to say is this morning I actually watched a reel on the way into the office talking about something somewhat similar, but it was from Mel Robbins and talks about there is a 5-second moment in our lives where you have a thought of something you need to do, whether that's go to the gym, go do a task you don't want to do. And there is a 5-second window in our cognitive load of going from, yes, we need to go and do that, to asking ourselves how we feel about it. And if you actually in that moment just count to 5, you are more likely to actually go and do it and execute versus go, oh, actually, I'm a little bit tired. I'm not going to go to the gym. And so I've done it already once today, and I already knocked off 2 tasks that I was just like, oh, I don't really want to do that right now. It's a bit too much. And then as soon as I got into it, I actually executed it very quickly. So maybe you can try that to get energy done.
Good advice. Just hold on. AI, please remind me to. That's good, Ash.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Wait, but it doesn't even talk to you. It just listens.
No, there is a little.
It listens, but then it sends you abusive texts afterwards. So,
like, I feel like the Ray-Bans glasses are more intelligent than this.
Do they have an AI tool that then goes and does things?
It's like you wear the glasses and you can actually talk to it. And it has...
Ash, fear not. I will be getting that as well. I will just accumulate random shit.
Next week we have Don with like the shade, like bunnies going into the podcast.
Talking to himself walking down the street.
Well, I thought I would get a pair that just are like clear glass and I can just wear them like glasses and everyone will think I'm more intelligent as well.
It's just like an infinite doom loop. The only thing that it does, there is a moral question here that the reason why I haven't started using and haven't started playing with it, apart from the fact I agree I'm going to look like a clown, but clearly I don't mind that in my life. But where's the consent with the counterparties?
0.
And that's the thing. So where I'm actually going to test this, I've got 2 portfolio sessions next week. I'm going to test it in that session, telling them that this is what it is. This is what I'm wearing. I'm testing it because in the portfolio support sessions, there's often very similar structure, process, outputs, and then using a template to be able to take some of that, put it in. And so that's where I'm going to start using it, is in an environment of consent. I can't see myself wanting to walk around and every time go, oh, by the way, this is being recorded. Are you happy with that? This is more going to be a tool for my portfolio work.
It'd be handy for when we deliver, I don't know, just little sessions, portfolio sessions or workshops or other things to be able to capture and create it into content. And also testimonials. When catch up, like all these people I've been seeing all week at Evoke Ag that are previous mission alumni, raving about contracts they've landed and all other things. I wish I did record all of this, but could.
You could have just had your AI note taker on.
Yeah, but then I got to get the device out and remember to...
What are you saying? Just holding up your phone like a rando? Is that what you're telling?
I just want something just doing it already, Ash. You know us well, Ash. We need systems.
Come on,
doing
Jack.
this.
What have you got to share?
No, I've got nothing.
I'm just sitting back watching you idiots.
Like the moral high ground on everything and just like throw some popcorn at the screen.
Yeah.
Oh, let's get Ash in. Oh, no.
So good. I love it. Well, I have a theme of the week. Well, actually, I have 2 themes of the week. One is building things together, like conscious of the work we're doing, the fund, and including our shareholders and investors in that process. Building together rather than trying to explain afterwards. And I'm just fully appreciating that even more with different questions that come in. And in hindsight, even thinking, wow, yeah, we could have even included you more in the process. So and I think for founders, it's an important one. Like, include your shareholders, your investors, your potentially customers, like in the process of building, because see it as an opportunity to build trust. See it as an opportunity for them to have greater buy-in, because that currency, that wealth bank balance you're building from that just pays dividends later. And I don't think you can ever do it too much. The other one, though, having spent the week at Evoke Ag, so we've been co-leading this Ag Venture Down Under mission with Mandalay Ventures, with 17 founders from around the world descending in Australia for the last 10 days. And that wraps up today, and Mara's done an amazing job pulling it together. But the localization of messaging, and we've been taking these founders through how to speak Aussie, how to communicate in market, how to change your sentence structure, how to change your delivery to suit how things will be received in Australia, because we've got tall poppy syndrome this, and we've got people react when you start credentialing too early in Australia, and all these sort of data points. But just that reminder of how critical that is. And as founders, it's very difficult to do it yourself because you are so ingrained in the details of what you do, the nuances, the excitement of every little feature and how complicated it is and the decades you've taken to build what you're doing, but the other people just don't care. And so you've really got to refine your message to get cut through. And so just been reminded of that. And team, we're going to take the credit. I was sharing this with Don earlier, but one of the delegates from New Zealand won the pitch competition the other night out of VocAg, and they attributed their success to our coaching and mentoring. So I'm owning it. It was us,
Well-
not the founder.
Are you even in VC if you don't take credit for?
100%.
No, you did a cracking job there. Maren has done an excellent job.
It's gone bloody well. The final wrap up dinners tonight. I've got to head in soon for a funding session, how to fund your market entry. But no, it's been a good week and good founders in the mix. Like, these are good companies executing bloody well.
Is that a long session? Because I would have thought the answer is cash.
Well, it's all forms, so not just capital, but yeah.
That's good. Well, let's jump into some charts. This chart here is healthcare employment. So for those at home, it plots peer economies. And so this is the share of total, the change since December 2019. And so it's got the peer economies in the middle that some have gone up by up to 1%, some have gone down by 1%, but it's pretty stable. Whereas our employment in the change in healthcare employment's like more than 3%, which doesn't sound like much, but actually that is a big number. And the only fear I have is, like, I just never want to end up with the US, like the US. Like people that come to Australia think that they just can't get their head around that we have the healthcare system that we have, and having had to leverage the healthcare system, I just hope we find some way to find the balance and don't let it get so expensive that we start to try and privatize, because the US system is total dog shit.
Leading cause of bankruptcy in the US is a health incident that sends you to hospital.
And it's one of the things that's going to cause civil war, because there was like this implicit contract from 30 or 40 years ago that you were a good citizen, you worked hard, you got yourself a house, the state would do certain things. And now, because they've taken capitalism far too far, and let's face it, the US is the most religious country on the earth, and they just have a view that if God wants you to be healthy, you'll work it out. It's a combination of a disaster. This is the price for a dozen eggs. Now, this is in the US. I didn't realize the US was having the same issues that we are, but it's obviously a global bird flu thing. But it's now hit a record high of nearly $5. And it keeps spiking because it seems that this isn't getting under control. I think I told you we bought 4 chickens the other day, and I'll soon be retiring from VC and just getting into egg sales to go with the goats and the chickens. Now, when we look at the inflation rate, this chart here is the cumulative price increase over the last 4 years. And you can see a dozen eggs is up 238%. And given the protein contribution eggs provide, like, that does have an effect. Auto insurance is up 61%. Is that just because electric cars are fucking expensive to repair? That seems unbelievable. Fuel and oil up 45%. Transport, home prices, gasoline. This is why, especially in the US, I'm just not sold on this idea of massive race cuts, because the inflationary environment just does not seem to support that. Because if you have a look at here, this is US headline CPI. And it bottomed in September at 2.4%, which is really when the market started discounting. We're probably going to get some rate cuts. But now in October, it went to 2.6, November 2.7, December 2.9, January 3. Like, that is a body in motion. And the idea that more rate cuts are going to come through whilst the core CPI is now creeping up, and the core CPI is one of the Fed's main criteria. Yeah, going to be really, really interesting. And another chart that sort of backed that up is that US core CPI inflation, year-on-year percentage change, the consecutive months above 3%. So this is going back to 1958. In the 1960s and 70s spike, it was 70 consecutive months. Then between 1974 and 1992, it was 248 months. Then from 94 until COVID, no consecutive months above 3%. We had very stable inflation and wages. But now we're at 45. Now, you never know what happens next month, but the last 2 times in the last 60 years it started to trend, it kept trending. And that's going to be interesting. And because interest rate affects our world significantly. This is why I track it. But not only is inflation increasing, profits are too. So this is the S&P 500 operating earning per share. This goes back to 2009. The earnings per share was like $55. It's now $234. So that's why some of this boom is totally different to the last boom, because it's actual real money being made at a profit basis. You can see where at COVID it dropped from 157 down to 122, but post-COVID we've gone from 122 to 234. And so the quality of these of the earnings, that doesn't mean that some sectors or companies aren't overpriced, but earnings have been increasing with valuations. This is from the US. I think this is the same in Australia, but again, since 2023, every month, the number of active listings for houses, seasonally adjusted, is increasing. More houses on the market for longer. And last week, I had 2 outbound calls from agents from properties from last year. Like, agents are actually having to pull their finger out and generate activity instead of wandering around with sockless short pants and weird leather shoes.
I've seen so many properties come off market and being relisted, and agents messaging nonstop. It's definitely shifted.
Which is not actually a good thing. Have a look at this chart. Like, I guess it's almost like the early stage companies' revenue versus expenses, but this is the US federal government spending versus tax revenue. Look at the gap between their actual spending and their revenue every year. And it's just getting wider. Like it's just amazing. So anyway, for the listeners at home, it's like they spend $7 trillion and they bring in 4.9 at the moment. And in the peak of COVID, they bought in 3 and they spent 7.5. So no wonder earnings per share at the company level are leading. I know you often think of this: ice cream sales versus shark attacks. A high correlation.
High. Yep. Global
yeah.
ice cream sales, global shark attacks. What type of sharks? No.
So this was a little video where someone was just explaining how dumb some data sets are, because correlation. This is US, by the way, Ash, because ice cream sales go up in summer. So do people swimming at the beach go up in summer, but saying that ice cream causes shark attacks. And it's because somebody had put out a chart saying organic food sales cause autism, because since 1998, autism has got diagnosis has gone up to the right, and so has organic food sales. And yeah, so insane.
Yeah.
It was Valentine's Day last week, and I missed these, but here's one. My life would zuck without you. And it's a picture of Mark Zuckerberg. Be my Valentine. There's no alt man for me. Be my Valentine. A week too late, I know, but you could store them for next year. Aaron, you found this. The perks of owning livestock. Extra money, free time, low stress. They're the options, but the pie chart has none of those options. That is absolutely my life. So this shirt, I think, is 2021 LP shirt when they go and meet their portfolio companies.
Oh, jeez.
So it's a picture of Jesus holding his hands out with the light shining, saying disappointments, all of you.
I think it's LPs wearing it to the VCs that they invested in 21.
Yeah. No, that's probably more true. Now, did you hear that Jeff Bezos is getting married? So someone said the Jeff Bezos wedding calculator, average wedding cost in the US, $30,000. Average couple net worth, $750. So percentage is 4%. Jeff Bezos' worth is $240 billion. Therefore, 4% of that, he should be spending $625 million on his wedding.
Love the Amazon Prime discount in there. That's hilarious.
Yeah. And that's it.
Hitting all the important topics.
The disdain on Ash's face for the listeners at home grows by the week.
I really try to work on it too. I guess it's not working.
Your resting disdain face.
Performance review.
Yeah.
Things to work on.
All right, what are we looking forward to?
Sending Notion to our venture partners to review and getting feedback before we go live to everyone listening.
I'm really excited because in the family office, I've reviewed a few data rooms for a few funds. And Ash, you have driven us, I think, excelling.
I had that exact thought this morning, Ash. I was reviewing some of the other docs from other funds and bloody hell, ours is shaped up to be stellar by comparison.
We think we're so good. We're recording an episode.
Well, we just wait for like feedback of people who have money to invest first before we set ourselves on
Yeah,
the back.
but let's at least ride this high until reality kicks in.
I have never
get a few
seen
notes.
another data room with emojis
I
and
mean,
GIFs.
I
Yeah.
love emojis. There had to be one.
The only thing I was thinking to our spirit, it's missing some memes, but other than that, I think it's a very
I was thinking about creating some memes which would have like the testimonials within them, but I thought it was too far. So
yeah, it's probably a good call.
And what are you guys looking forward to?
Jack, you go. What are you looking forward to, buddy?
I'm looking forward to going into the city, catching up with Ash and Nick this afternoon. So I haven't been into the city since Louis came, so 11 weeks.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
Well done. 11 weeks. I think it was 3 months before we left the house. So with our firstborn. So well done. Well, I'm looking forward to an event tonight that I've since been told we can't talk about on social media, but it's going to be fun and awesome.
Yeah, the first rule of this event is don't talk about this event. I'm looking forward to it as well. It's obviously a packed crowd because I was very politely asked not to bring my wife, which she was actually very excited by because she likes social interactions like a hole in the head. So she was like, oh, so good.
Yeah, I think numbers have changed. I was told, oh, you could bring all the kids. It'd be really valuable for them to then, no, actually you can't bring anyone else, just you.
And even if you don't turn up, we'd be happy with that as well. So no, that's good.
No, but it'd be good.
All right. Well, we'll let you get to it.
See you guys.
See you guys.
bye.
See yous.
Bye.